Hey everyone, I was just getting done watching George Zimmerman trial. It was real interesting this morning that started out with Trayvon Martin's mother, um, and of course before she got on the stand, that George Zimmerman was very nervous. He had to wipe his forehead twice during before she got up to the stand, and that's a sign he was nervous. It's just what in the world is he thinking in his mind because of what she's going to say, knowing that that's her son screaming in the background, and knowing that wasn't him screaming. Now, going along with her testimony, that she did really good. Uh, Mrs. Martin, Teresa Martin's mom, did really good on everything, and he did real good. Now, next, it's her, Tremar Martin's brother. He playing well good and stuff. Understand being so distraught at the time when they were listening to the voice screaming, and it is confusing when you got shocked when this was presented to you on the 911 tape. And then at the end here, you had George Zimmerman's mother says, "That's my son," but she never heard her son screaming before, like that before. So she couldn't tell, you knowing that she couldn't tell, but in order to back her son, yes, she'll say, "Yes, that's my son who's screaming in the background." But Trayvon Martin didn't have a gun. So how could he be screaming if he didn't have a gun? The only time he would be screaming if he had some gun pointing at your face or your chest, and you'd be screaming your life away to get somebody help. And then his uncle, George Zimmerman's uncle, that's saying that's his nephew who's screaming. He never heard him scream before like that. So, but Trayvon Martin's mother heard different screams, yelling from him through childhood. When if he got in trouble or whatever, she heard them clearly. But when it comes to the evidence of how how much long did Trayvon Martin live? Now, on here, I'm seeing that to get medical help, paramedics, EMTs, and fire department to get there at least allow 6 to 10 minutes to get to that patient. And to help him within maximum 6 minutes response time. Now, the other thing is would be here is the muscles things to do in so long as there is enough oxygen presented in the arteries. Now, George Zimmerman said in one of the videos that showing what happened to the police officer on that property in daylight, he said he sat on him, on his back, George Zimmerman sat on his back. Whatever air was left, well, he pushed him out. Pushed the rest of the air out and smothered him. He was face down in the ground. So what air did he have, Trayvon Martin had? It was gone. Less than 10 minutes. Or less than 10 seconds. But if the blood is not flowing to the brain less than 1 second, he was gone. Because finally, the blood then pull back out of the vein, and the brain ultimately dies. There will be no blood to the system, to the brain. Once the bullet hit the heart, it stops. There no blood flow. It would be leaking out of the heart where the blood flows through. It would be leaking, and it would not be left to be able to move. But if he was still alive, George could have done something. But he didn't, because of he sat on top of Trayvon Martin, pushed the rest of his air out, and his face was down on the ground. So he kind of smothered Trayvon Martin's life at the end, because he could have saved him. No. And he knew he was doing as a police officer that night. That's what he was doing. He went to school, he was trained, he learned, and he did those things. He pursued the suspect, but he wasn't the suspect. Nobody knew George Zimmerman existed. George Zimmerman didn't know any of his neighbors. He didn't know nobody. He didn't even know Trayvon Martin. He presumed he was the bad guy here on our property. So, and then talking about stand your ground law here, I went through, you remember Michael Dunn, the Florida guy who comforts you saying stand your ground is the law, national stage after the murder yet another unarmed black teenager. Now, he's the one who shot the 17-year-old Jordan Russell Davis, a black teenager, and several friends were confined by Don, a white man who pulled up alongside the teen SUV in the parking lot because of loud music. Now, after exchange words, he fired 8 to 9 time shots at the vehicle, several which hit Davis, causing his death. Now, that's here, George Zimmerman, right here. This case here, exactly like George Zimmerman's case, he didn't care who they were. He just went after them because of loud music. George Zimmerman, he didn't care who he was. And the controversy, I'll meet you here, but you got out of the vehicle, I want to chase him. But he was told before he got out of the car, do not chase the suspect. Do not chase Trayvon Martin. Let the police handle it, which he didn't. And that night, when he got out of the vehicle, he saw the squad car going by him. Why didn't he stop that squad car and tell him this is where he is? And the coroner, and then yesterday about the blood on George Zimmerman's jacket and Trayvon Martin's sweater, a hooded sweater. There was blood on George Zimmerman's right handcuff jacket. He would have had more blood if George Zimmerman was underneath him. He would have more blood on the jacket. Blood would stain your hands still. You can't get blood off your hands if you've been attacked. They didn't find blood on Trayvon Martin because there was no blood. There was no stains showing stains on her hand. George Zimmerman, blood on his jacket. Where's the rest of the blood? He would be able to touch. But they took pictures of no blood because they didn't swab George Zimmerman's hand for blood. Blood would still be on your hands, be like still on your clothes. So now the defense tried to railroad this court, saying this is self-defense. He did his job, and let's move on to talking to some other court hearings that would come close to stand your ground law. This I found with Michael Dunn comes to which because he didn't like loud music, or he just didn't like the black teenagers in that vehicle. I wouldn't care if it's loud music. It wouldn't bug me. George Zimmerman, as I did police calls when I was on newspaper routes in Indianapolis, I would watch before I called the police to make sure what they were doing first. In this particular apartment complex, I had two people who stole stuff from residents in that apartment complex, watched them get to a car that had an alarm system on it, and then I called the police. Then there were several others who stealing newspapers, driving around radically through to look for something that wasn't there. Once you know everything around your surroundings of doing your newspaper route or anything where you live, you know day to day what happens, what should not be. No one should be out in the middle of nowhere of doing some of this stuff. So I watched. I don't know law enforcement, but I know when there's some suspicions of things happening that shouldn't be, and I wait until I call 911. Then the police would come out. The police would tell me, the dispatch would tell me, would you chase them? If they wanted me to, yeah, I said, yeah, I would chase them. But if it got too dangerous, they usually tell me, don't. I'll listen. But things that I see would be more safe, I took the chances. I never got hurt. So, in instance, George Zimmerman lied several times through his whole entire case. And he knows it. And they're not going to put George Zimmerman on the stand because he's going to get away. A lot of times he smiles. It's like, Then he's known he's going to get away with it because he knew how to do it when he was being taught in school of how to cover up your tracks to see something. If some guy over here is going to do something, you know you're going to have to cover up your tracks. Lie in order to get through. George Zimmerman was suing towards Trayvon Martin. He was protecting himself. That's why George Zimmerman got his nose busted open and cracked his head. And he was not being killed that night. Now, see what happens now with the defense team. I think they're going to try as much as they can to do something to railroad this. But I think at the end, if the jury, the 6 ladies who are sitting there watching, getting all the evidence, listen to the police tapes, I think it'll come to a close, but I don't know. But I think George Zimmerman would be tried as a second murder case. But that's my theory. Talk to you later. Bye now.